To CloudLanes and the CloudLanes Backup Accelerator. This series of videos will show you first how to download the correct image for your particular hypervisor and to deploy that image properly. Step 2 will be to configure one or more cloud storage accounts in your cloud storage provider. Step 3 will be to create the Backup Accelerator Vault, where we store all the data that you back up, first initially on premises and then moving it to the cloud. The fourth step is connecting the Windows server on which you are running your backup software to the CloudLanes Backup Accelerator with the iSCSI initiator. The final video will be a walkthrough for configuring with best practices your backup software and running through all the functionality to backup and restore using the CloudLanes Backup Accelerator. This is the second video in the series, which will show you how to configure your cloud storage accounts, in this case using Microsoft Azure. To provision our storage in Microsoft Azure, we will open the Azure Resource Manager portal at portal.azure.com. Once that's loaded, look for storage accounts, or you can search for it up in Resources. We're going to add a new storage account. Let's give it a name. CloudLanes Backup Accelerator 1. Resource Manager Deployment Model. This is important. Change the account kind to blob storage. If you are creating this using classic storage accounts, you don't have a choice. There is only one type that will function properly, but in the Azure Resource Manager model, we can choose different kinds of storage accounts. So in this case, blob storage is appropriate. Replication, I suggest checking the Microsoft documentation for the different forms of replication. In this case, I'm choosing locally redundant storage, which ensures 3 synchronous copies of my cloud-based data will be stored in a single Microsoft data center. The access tier I'm going to switch to cool. Typically, a backup accelerator, such as this, is intended for dealing with archival data. That is, you're backing up data that you need to keep long term, that you may need to retrieve more or less infrequently. And in that case, the cool tier is generally more economical. If you are in a position where you frequently need to retrieve data that you back up, the hot tier may be more appropriate. But in most cases, cool is the more economical choice. Storage service encryption. Certainly in your backup software, you can enable encryption there, and we do highly recommend that. This, if enabled, will encrypt once again at rest the data in the Microsoft's data centers. It will not cause a performance hit, so we typically enable that. Make sure the appropriate subscription is chosen, and if you don't have a resource group ready for this, let's go ahead and create one. And then choose the appropriate location. In my case, West US 2. I'm going to pin that to the dashboard. Once the deployment is complete, we can click on that storage account and then click on Access Keys. Now, the reason that 2 keys are issued is that when you have a persistent service, such as the CloudLanes Backup Accelerator, making use of a storage account, typically you would use key 1 for that. That key would be rotated infrequently based on your company policy. The idea is that is being used for a persistent service that isn't human interactive. The reason for a second key is generally in case of troubleshooting. If you require an untrusted resource to access this storage account for diagnostics purposes, let's say you talk to CloudLanes support and they want to take a look at the blob storage, what you could do is give them key 2, and then when troubleshooting is done, you can rotate that key at any time without affecting key 1, which is being used for the persistent service. So in this case, we'll use key 1 for our deployment. So copy that key, make note of it, and secondly, you'll need to make note of the storage account name. We'll need those 2 pieces to configure the CloudLanes Backup Accelerator Vault.